Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. So today we're diving into a really fun, fascinating short story called Overcoming the Unknown, Slithering into Acceptance. And it just perfectly captures how we can actually conquer our sudden, primal fears. Because let's be real, we've all been there, right? You're suddenly face to face with something totally weird or foreign, and boom, your fight or flight response just kicks right in. Today, we're going to look at how navigating that initial, sheer panic and more importantly, what we choose to do in the moments right after that really defines our ability to adapt. This story basically breaks down that entire journey of overcoming fear, step by step. And it shows us that, hey, acceptance might not happen overnight, but it is absolutely 100% possible.
Okay, so we kick things off with a literal shock to the system. Yikes, take it away from me. That is Mama's shrieking, totally panicked reaction the exact second her 12-year-old son, Arav, casually walks up and just shows her a green snake walking right across his hand. I mean, to Arav, the snake is just this cool little creature given to him by a senior at school, right? He actually finds the slithering sensation kind of ticklish. But Mama? Oh man, she immediately bolts into the house and literally slams her bedroom door shut behind her. It is just pure, unadulterated terror at the sight of the unknown.
And honestly, that brings up a pretty crucial question for all of us. How do we push past our own blind, primal instincts when we're staring down something we just don't understand? See, Mama's reaction here isn't really just about a snake. It represents literally any sudden, unknown variable that just barges into our carefully controlled lives. You know how the human brain works. It instantly flags the unknown as a massive threat just to keep us safe. The real challenge, and what this story beautifully dissects, is figuring out how to actually flip that internal switch. How do we go from a state of total, utter panic back to a state of calm rationality?
Well, it's definitely not easy. Mainly because fear turns defensive super fast. Mama's fear actually escalates right past flight and lands firmly in the fight response. So she's locked safely in a room, right? And Arav, playing around and honestly probably being a little bit mischievous, suggests the snake might have actually crept under her door. Mama's immediate reaction? A straight-up aggressive threat. She yells, "If I see it one more time, I am going to smash it with a broom." Think about that for a second. The perceived threat of this tiny little animal has completely overridden her normal behavior and logic.
Now, what's super interesting here is this stark contrast between Mama's pure instinct and Arav's educated logic. It's like two different worlds. On one hand, you have Mama, who sees this creepy threat that absolutely unequivocally requires a broom to neutralize. But on the other hand, you've got Arav. He sees a harmless, ticklish little creature perfectly designed by nature. He even points out to her, hey, this isn't some dangerous python or a cobra. It's literally just a tiny green snake. It perfectly shows how one perspective is heavily clouded by a deeply ingrained phobia, while the other is just grounded in simple, rational observation.
And here is where we see Arav's absolute masterstroke in persuasion. Seriously, it's brilliant. Think about it. How do you get someone to drop their defensive broom and actually listen to you? You remind them of who they are. Arav tells her, "You only tell me one must never kill animals, and that's why we are all vegans."
Wow.
He strategically anchors this scary new concept, the snake, right to Mama's deeply held personal core values. He reminds her of their shared family commitment to not harm animals. It is such an incredibly smart move to safely guide her back from the ledge of panic by engaging her own ethical compass.
So, with the snake now safely secured in a bottle, just to make absolutely sure it doesn't actually get squashed, Arav starts to dismantle his mother's phobia with cold, hard facts. When Mama finally steps out of the room, obviously still mortally terrified, he reads a passage from a book directly to her, laying out these great evidence-based reassurances. He establishes that this specific green snake species is totally harmless, no venom, no danger. Not only that, but they actually make fantastic, super manageable pets, and perhaps the wildest part to Mama, they possess a surprising amount of intelligence. He's literally replacing her fear of the unknown with structured, accessible knowledge.
And this is the crucial point here. Logic creates the space for a cautious compromise. Once she absorbs Arav's logic and checks in with her own values, she agrees first off not to be mean to the animal or any insects. Second, she insists that Arav build a large enough cage and properly provide for all its needs. Fair enough, right? But third, and this is absolutely the most important thing for her psychological safety, she establishes a firm boundary. She tells him, "Do not try to rush me into handling it." This is a massive step forward for her. She's allowing the object of her fear into her environment, but strictly on her own terms, without feeling pressured or totally overwhelmed.
Okay, so with the agreement and those boundaries firmly in place, Arav drops this incredibly subtle line right before he leaves for a school trip. He says, "I am sure you would know how to handle it when I go for the study tour for a few days." Look at what he's doing there. He is confidently handing over the reins. Notice how he isn't pushing her to touch it immediately, and he's not breaking her boundary. Instead, he's just planting this little seed of trust. He trusts that, given just a little bit of time and uninterrupted exposure, the mere proximity of that safely caged snake is going to do the rest of the work in normalizing its presence in their home.
And it is just so fascinating to track Mama's rapid emotional 180 here. I mean, look at this timeline. Minute 1, she is bolting into the house, slamming the door in absolute uncontrollable terror. By hour 1, thanks to that reminder of her core values and just some basic facts, she's actually negotiating logical boundaries for a cage and its care. But look at what happens just days later while Arav is away. This is crazy. She is independently feeding the snake frozen crickets that Arav had gotten. I mean, it perfectly shows exactly how quickly education, when you couple it with safe, self-directed proximity, can completely rewrite our initial panic responses.
So the transformation becomes complete, and quite frankly, totally heartwarming, when Arav finally gets back from his study tour. He walks in to find this incredibly funny climax to the whole ordeal. Mama, the same woman who previously wanted to smash the animal with a broom, looks right at him and says, "Maybe you can get another one. I think it is feeling lonely." Wow, no way, right? She hasn't just tolerated or accepted this green snake, she's actively empathizing with it. She's projecting complex emotions onto a creature she thought was a creepy threat just a few days prior. Her fear of the unknown has entirely evaporated into genuine care and concern. To cap it all off, the story leaves us with the ultimate symbol of unlearning fear through education. At the very end, there is exactly one brand new book about snakes sitting proudly on the family bookshelf. It is a quiet but super powerful testament to Mama's journey. She didn't just survive the experience of having a snake in the house. Her fear was actively replaced by curiosity. The presence of that single new book signifies that knowledge has permanently taken the place of her initial ignorance and terror. So let's leave off with this thought, and honestly, it's a vital question to ask ourselves as we wrap up this explainer. What instinctual fear could you overcome if you just gave it a little time? Because, let's face it, we all have that one thing we immediately label as creepy or terrifying without a second thought, instinctively reaching for our own metaphorical brooms. But if you take a page out of Arav and Mama's book, I highly encourage you to examine your own phobias. Ask yourself how applying simple logic, maybe educating yourself a bit, and aligning with your own deep values, well, it might just turn your biggest fear into your brand new fascination.